Hello, and welcome back.
Live streaming is on.
Hello, and welcome back to It's Just Technical. Today we delve into the intersection of security, unhoused, migrants, and big tech. So welcome back. Let's go down this conversation together. So recently, big tech has faced massive criticism for overstepping its boundaries. In fact, here I'm stating they've outgrown their britches, with instances of pushing propaganda and even resorting to manufactured bots to influence and guide us in specific directions. Now, we all survived the last few years, some of us, as if those of us, as in those here in Silicon Valley, really faced things that we would have never thought would have ever crossed our paths in life. You would not think that the schools would be shut down for anything other than a snow day. And yet, as I walk around today, there's still a number of people that have two masks on, not just one. I really question how deep this went into individuals. And as we look at big tech outgrowing their big britches, they continue to get massive funding, especially in this year of us voting our opinion. But the issue goes well beyond that of arguing with computers, right? In fact, recently, big tech had to resort to using corn bots, but the C was actually the letter P. And you could tell by the images, the kind of comments they were programmed with, that these particular manufactured commentators were not humans. And in fact, they were needing them in so many different directions at the same time, they hadn't manufactured enough of the batches to roll out. And this is absolute desperation. But for you and I, it's now comedy. We understand the game. The gig is up. We understand that we are being manipulated, not even by other people, but by machine learning. We know the term right now is artificial intelligence or AI, but really it's still in the core stages of machine learning. The machines are being fed information, which is slanted in one direction or another based on what it is provided. The algorithms allow it to learn in specific directions and then refeed itself and grow upon the information that it gathers in alignment with how it's been taught. Shockingly, even reputable sources like Sports Illustrated have allegedly created bot personas and sold stories as if written by actual humans. Stories that were 100% manufactured. They might as well have been written by the Imagineers over at Disney. The storyteller, the stories, the references. It appears that possibly all of that was just a figment of somebody's imagination, yet pushed out as facts. It's clear that big tech has really outgrown its boundaries, stretched and stepped a bit too far. Yet I believe we're still at the very cusp of what we're going to be seeing, especially as we approach this year where we get to voice our opinion. And as we know, this voicing of our opinion is not just here. We can be very centric on our own lives, but there's over 40 major voicing opinions around the world in this one year, 2024. And the linchpin for the make it or break it happens to be the individual who just got over 51% majority in the recent caucus. That's going to be a make it or break it. And we've already heard the calls for making sure that that doesn't happen, whether it's before or after. That's all manufactured as well. So as it's clear that big tech is being used to step beyond the boundaries or the box it was created to fulfill, where will they continue to go? You and I are wise enough, we're intuitive, we know the path. But we do know that this year they are going to continue to receive massive funding from political donations and political advertising to continue to get your attention because they truly believe that it's not good or bad, it's just attention. and they will have you remember when you go to write in a name or check a box, fill in a bubble, that the news was out there on a person's name, and you'll forget the negativity attached to it. But again, for any of us in the social media space, this is already driving up advertising costs for the year. So we'll continue to see this shake through as less voices like mine are out there and more voices of a political nature with a bend come forward. So let's continue to shift back into this focus on big tech to cities like New York and Chicago, which are grappling with an unbalanced number of individuals not contributing but straining the system. They have their hand out. Many are kind and grateful, but many know that this is not the path. They know that money is just not being given for free. They know that that money is coming from somebody else. Many will state that this is a very wealthy country and the government is handing it out. But the government obtains its money from the taxpayers. Money has to come from somewhere. And as we look at the strain of the funds going in one direction, we can see it's not going in another. It's a basic opportunity cost. So one example that was recently highlighted were the meals being given to those being housed in the luxury hotels in New York City. I believe it's a Roosevelt hotel that's being highlighted primarily. And the city accepted a no-bid contract, meaning they had one contractor only offer a solution, and the city accepted it. So whatever dollar amount they said, that's what was agreed to. Now, what's unique or interesting about this is apparently the company providing the meals is a medical background. They're the same ones that provided the testing kits during the last few years. Well, that river dried up. So why not go after something else, something that they have nothing about? They're not in this other than they're capitalists and they're making money, which in itself is not a problem. It's the direction by which this is being fed from a politician who it's not that person's money to a company that's just feeding out a trough. Now, in this case, at $11 an hour, they must make a profit, but they're not sourcing the food. They're not preparing the food. They're certainly not driving the trucks to deliver the food. So all of that added cost has to go into the cost of delivering those meals, of which the reason that this hit the news stream was that they're literally being placed in big black trash bags that we used to put out by our curb before we got the cans. Those big trash cans are filled of the food. At the end of the day, what is shocking about it is a lot of it is not being eaten. It's just being thrown out, and it's not being offered to others who are eating, just being thrown out. They say it's not good. It doesn't taste good. It might be frozen, some of it making them sick. At $11 a meal, millions upon millions of dollars. And yet you and I know why the church is so important. Nearby churches, as an example, are providing hot meals where individuals come in off the street. They get to sit in fellowship or friendship or whatever they want to call it, walk up and be served a meal, and be allowed to go back multiple times until they are full. And the churches are saying this is costing around $2 a meal. Well, why does this work for churches and it's not working on a cost basis for the city? The city could have gone to the churches. The city doesn't want to give money to the churches. But what we're seeing, the church is connected to the community. The church is the community. The church is made up of volunteers and parishioners and staff and priest or pastor that live in the community. They're in touch with the reality of the world. Money isn't just flowing to them in a manner of which if they want more, they just increase taxes. That's not the way it works in churches. Now, we are guided as Christians as an opportunity to give to the church, that we can tithe, but there isn't a set amount or a true rule or law around this. But what we have seen in society is when we are blessed with excess, we give and we vote with our dollar. One of the places people can give, of course, is a church. You can give to your family, you can friends, you can give directly to somebody on the street, but you know there's been a lot of ads for a long time telling you don't give direct. Why? Because one, somebody's not getting cut, and two, people aren't being trapped. Why not give to somebody who's in need? Well, some people do like to do this through the church. They also like to share their resources and their time with their church. And this is a great way, again, to be a part of the community. But how do you give when you don't have? So what we're seeing right now is a transition from individuals who have historically and generationally given through their church, now on the other side of either not having the opportunity to share or share as much, or actually be on the side of being in need, something that was unfathomable for generations. So where does this bring us? As Biden economics has broken the system, as we sit here with less pay, struggling to hold on to the jobs that we do have, all the resource costs have significantly gone up, be it gas or heating or electricity. Definitely food has jumped significantly. Basic resources for survival have gone out of control. There just isn't the same discretionary income anymore. And yet through the church just down the street from this previous high-rise luxury hotel, they're still figuring it out a way to make it work and struggling with the city because their own funding stream of support from the city just got reduced from $1 million down to $300,000 because there just isn't enough is what they're told. So contrasting, corporations demand the profits. They outsource everything. As a result, the cost rises, and everyone along the chain takes their own cut. Originally, people tied to the churches, fostering the community and support. However, under the current economic conditions, discretionary income decreases, leading to a cycle where givers become those that are actually in need. And those who are becoming wealthy, who have their homes or housing paid for them, who have transportation paid for them, are now getting their legal costs paid for them, and also, of course, have cash deposited into their accounts, have free phones, and additional cash cards to buy whatever food they want on top of the food that's being given to them. Anything else they have now is pure profit. And that pure profit can be towards buying a car, which makes prices of cars go up, supply and demand. It will eventually grow to the point where enough of these family members together will buy houses. Excellent. That's the American dream. But what happens when all of that process is subsidized by the dollar, the tax dollar, through the government, and you and I are held back? We are footing the bill to raise up the level of everybody else. We've been told for years of our privilege. We've been told for years of challenges around the world. And yet, this country has literally only had one civil disagreement, and that was absolutely, literally over freedom. That's what this country was built upon, and that's what this country continues to move forward on. We open our arms. But when there's no more blood, you can't take more blood out of a turnip. That's it. It's done. You have a pitcher of water and there's no more water. There's no more water you can give. It's not that you can't take anymore and you can't give anymore. So this brings us to Davos. where the elite gather openly and aggressively promoting their ideas, their street views. Outside BlackRock revealed well-dressed individuals, no homeless, no unhoused, no one looking out of place like maybe a migrant looking for a bus stop or a place to stay. The hypocrisy is evident, with leaders securing their own environments while mocking those facing the challenges that they ignore. Now, remember last year when the independent reporters were trying to get interviews, we always saw Palantir in the background. That's Peter Thiel's company. And if you don't off the top remember the history of that surveillance company and what they're doing, take a peek. But this year in the background, it absolutely says BlackRock. Many may not be familiar with the term Palantir, but most of us by now are absolutely familiar with the workings of BlackRock. They don't hide it anymore. This isn't something that they talk about or sneak around or hide. It's right there in the open. This is what they're doing. They've created a shoe. You squeeze your foot in that shoe. If your foot doesn't fit, don't worry, they'll chop it off. If that's not something that you agree with, don't worry, you're not necessary. They'll go on to somebody who will put their foot in the shoe. So big tech has been allowed to outgrow their britches because of the funding they are getting from these organizations as they manipulate and use DEI and equity and social scores in order to pay massive amount of salaries and stock options to individuals who bow down to Caesar. So consider the stark contrast of big tech companies. As Davos tells you to go in one direction, you can see the reality of how big tech companies are living. Last week I posted, and I'll post in the link below as soon as this live is done, I posted a video driving around the Google headquarters campus. It's beautiful, it's clean. There's nobody loitering. There's certainly not one piece of trash ever. And although last week it wasn't quite as evident, this week there's security everywhere. There's security on the sidewalks. Those are public sidewalks, and yet they'll stop people and ask for their badge. The security, of course, is not just cameras or security systems or alarms, but bodyguards and physical presence on every street corner. It reminds me of the years I lived in South America, specifically in Colombia, where on the street corners there would be a house, and by house I meant a box where a person could stand and peek out a hole, and you knew he had a lot of weapons. And he was not hired by the government. He was not military. He was hired by the local community in order to watch that street in the neighborhood. And now here we see it everywhere. But it's not in your neighborhood or my neighborhood. It's in that of the elite. Just as Nancy Pelosi so kindly had the migrants removed from her yard when they were not allowed to camp there. Speaker of the House, as she was opening the borders and telling us that we need to open our hearts and our worlds to everybody. We are now seeing locations like New York have people, Brooklyn Island this weekend, Staten Island this weekend, actually go up to people's homes and knock on the doors and ask if they can have refuge inside. At the point that it's dangerous for your family, if you don't know them, you certainly don't open your home to them. There's ways to give safely. That is not it. So the elite who can afford the security and the big tech companies who continue to spew propaganda, they fortify their surroundings while advocating for a change in your backyard. But of course, NIMBY applies, not in my backyard. As we navigate these issues, it's crucial to question the motives, use critical thinking, and take action to really forward your values. Stay tuned for more insights on It's Just Technical. Have a great day.